So I'm cranky.
Good luck. I'm sorry,
But that's your thing, right?
but
That's what
hopefully effectively cranky.
The city of New York, Boricua from the Bronx.
I see you're also from the Bronx. I grew up in the Bronx.
Oh, yeah? Where?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Well, till July 14th, 1971, I was around Hunts Point, Elder Avenue, the Costello Coffee Factory. It was Brucker Expressway. And then I moved to Coke City in the Bronx.
Okay, cool. So you were in the Bronx long before me. Your experience in the Bronx may be very, very different than mine, you
Uh,
know?
I was like in the South Bronx, and just like a side story. My father, I'm first generation American. My father, he worked at ethanol meat provisions out in near some prison in right Huts Point, Longwood Avenue, really bad neighborhood. And he wanted my bar mitzvah. He wanted to take me to a prostitute.
What?
By Longwood Avenue, there's these prostitutes. I mean, when later as I got older, I actually uh, drove over there to pick up my father, from work when I had a driver's license at 16, 17. And it's like, wow, thank God I didn't go for that prostitute. It was like a prostitute or Disney World.
That's
But then, you drive around like Wallwood Avenue right around there, and these women, it's like it's really bad neighborhood. And there's these in the wintertime, there's these trash cans with fire coming out, and they're dressed up in their prostitute outfits.
this is
Just
the
in the street corner.
70s.
That was the 70s. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, yeah, you know what? That was the 70s when was it 70s or 80s that we'd say the Bronx is burning? I think it was the
70s.
70s, right?
70s. Yeah.
Wow, that's a trip. That's a trip. Yeah, no, I came I mean, I was a teenager in the 90s, so
Mm.
it was a slightly different, I mean, I think the 70s were a completely different experience. We have our own, version of insanity, but it was, I think, a little different
Yeah.
than what you guys would have seen in the 70s. Because yeah, I mean, we still had, like, you go to Times Square, you would, back then the insult was, your mom works in 42nd Street.
Ah,
So Times Square was still, and we don't mean at the Disney store back then. You know what I mean? Like, when people would say that insult, they certainly weren't saying your mom works at Disney selling
yeah.
candy.
Yeah.
It was a completely different insult.
Uh,
You know? Um, so you you your thing is talking about crankiness and how to use it. Like,
yes.
it's
Embracing your crankiness.
how did that come about?
Well, okay, so how that came about. So I have, first of all, I have this book, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, TyrantoCrankaTsuris. This came out before.
When I saw the name, I thought that sounds like a dinosaur name, and as I continued reading your biographical info, I was like,
So
"It is a dinosaur."
yeah, it's dinosaur. So I was with my wife. I'm a lawyer. I teach negotiation. I work for a company in negotiation, and had no plan on doing a kids. But we were in Rome, and we were renting out some Airbnb type place. So my wife was coloring her hair, and the electricity went out. It's August, and she's getting this black eye, and she was getting very cranky, unconsolably cranky. And I finally came out of my mouth. He was like a TyrantoCrankaTsuris. Saurus is the Yiddish word for problems. Like, you think you have Saurus, my doing Saurus, have you doing cartwheels? Nobody can outdo my Saurus. And I said, you're a TyrantoCrankaTsuris. That's probably how all the other dinosaurs died. There's one little dinosaur cranking at its source, and all the other big dinosaurs couldn't take it, and they dropped dead. So, so that got a laugh out of her. And a couple things happened. First of all, whenever we got cranky, we said we had a Crankosaurus coming. So it was this thing, and and then one of the reviewers in my kids' book said I wasn't talking enough about overcoming crankiness. So I said, well, the whole point is to embrace crankiness because I mean, the story in The Last Surviving Dinosaur, all humans involved from the Tyrantosaurus. And that's why we're all cranky. come out, we come into this world, we're crying, we're cranking bigs. So since we're all cranky, uh, might as well embrace it. And then I created this CrankaTsuris, and what happens is like you have things in your head that go straight to your mouth. The CrankaTsuris is like a safe place. Like I have this little box inside here. It's like, well, let me think about it. So it slows down the process, but still, I'm crank. I'm not getting rid of it. I just know where I'm just keeping it in place, and then I decide how I want to use it.
That's interesting. You made it into a children's book.
Yes, it's a proper kid's book. A lot of kids love it.
How do you go about like I don't know, like for instance, my scenario, right? I have this company and it looks like they're putting me in a bad spot. How do you channel something like that?
Like one of my favorite chapters in the book. Um, it sounds like your experience, and I have this kind of experience as well. So, what the chapter in the book is called "Drive Me Crazy, CrankaTsuris," and you have two sentences in your head that's just kind of connected at the same time. In the first sentence, it drives me crazy when these people don't do whatever. And then the next sentence, I cannot understand how they can't provide whatever, and so when you have those two sentences, it's very combustible. Or it's like, uh, so, uh, that I read a story about three different people, myself and then two other people, and two different stories having we're all driven crazy at the same time for different reasons, and that was somehow cathartic for me. It's like I notice I get driven crazy a lot. I get driven crazy all the time. Uh, so it kind of slow. Hey, it's annoying. This happens. I don't have to get crazy all the time. So, so that was, um, so that was like one way I deal with it. I have a chapter, can of worms, credit source. And I have a story in there and, a funny story. Uh, so, in that case, I talk about, uh, I'm going to open up uh, a tuna company. I'm going to call it Wormy Tuna. And because, they have a bumblebee tuna and some worm that catches the tuna. And, and then the thing about it, I even have the slogan, if they could put a worm in a bottle of tequila, a worm in a bottle of a can of tuna won't kill you. And, but anyway, what I talk about is sometimes in your head, what's the big thing about a can of worms? You open up the can, one worm falls out, put it back in, no big deal. Can of bees, you open up a can of bees and they start stinging everybody flying around. So I talk about sometimes in your head, you feel like there's a bunch of bees and you just want to fight everything. So it's like a slow down, yeah, it's worms. And then I end up chapter saying, opening up a can of worms isn't that bad after all. So, so there's this. I tell stories and the funny stories. I make it hysterically funny, and I'm very happy with the reviews on Amazon. Everybody finds it hysterical book, but still teaching something about how to be cranky and accepting your crankiness, not trying to get rid of it. It's like, okay, it's there, it's there. So
Perspective. It sounds like that was the point you were making in the scenario with the can of worms, right? It's not as bad as a can of bees.
yeah, no,
you know,
no, you don't
pers-
want a can of beans.
I think perspective is very important. It is something that I use every day. Perspective to kind of rein me in when I feel like I'm like kind of losing my head. You know, it's a tool that has helped me a lot in life in general. I think it's in line with the way you're describing it. It's I actually hear that open up a can of worms. I never really thought what that actually meant. As you're
Yeah,
describing it now, I'm kind of like, actually, what does it mean? Like, you know, like, like one of them will fall out or something. I I'd never really given thought to what that saying meant. I just kind of accepted it.
Yeah.
Oh, I just thought about that right now as you mentioned it. But then when you mentioned the bees and stuff, then it made me think about the perspective.
Yeah, I do. I use a lot of different sayings and they'll think about, and then I end up having fun.
You haven't introduced yourself yet, and that's on me. We just went into the conversation. Introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Steve Joseph. I just released this book, A Grown Up Guide to Effective Crankiness, the CrankaTsuris Method. It follows my dinosaur book, The Last Surviving Dinosaur, the TyrantoCrankaTsuris. I have a blog, StephenJosephAuthor.com, where I still write a lot of stuff on crankiness. It's going to be like CrankaTsuris Method 2 that will be coming out. I even have a second kids book coming out, Snoodles, Doodles, Poodles, and lots of noodles. So that's my author side. I am also an attorney. I've been managing litigation for insurance company for over 30 years. I teach negotiation. I'm also a marathon runner,
Mm,
having
saw
run
that.
close to 50 marathons. I got into New York City Marathon today. So I'm wearing my New York City Marathon little thing on my head. I've been training. But yeah, I'm all about embracing our crankiness.
Uh, How do you, I mean, it's slightly unrelated to the crankiness, but how do you manage to run so much and stay healthy? If that, like, in terms of injuries with your legs, or,
Uh,
how do you, how do, I mean, I know a few people who run marathons, but you said 15 or 50?
50, 50. I
Wow.
run New York City Marathon 16 times, Boston 5 times. Yeah, I've done a bunch of marathons. I'm just lucky. I don't know. Two things I'm lucky. Also, I didn't start running till I was like 20. So I was not athletic growing up. So I always think about these track stars in high school, college, and they're just like their bodies maybe not really developed. So since I decided by the time I was 28 to start running, okay, my body's already done. And then I got into, and the other thing, I'm somewhat pain tolerant. And I have friends who get an injury and they stop. It's like one step forward, two steps back. And I really push myself. I listen to my body. And if it gets worse, I will stop. But I do keep running through different pains and they kind of resolve. So I turned 60 in a few months. And I did New York City Marathon when I was 40. I did it 4 hours and 21 minutes. When I turned 50, it was 3 hours and 17 minutes. So it was actually got older and faster. So I plan when I turn 80 to be up with the Kenyan. Of course, the slower Kenyans, not the fast, the super fast.
I dig it. I dig it. Wow. That is one of my, at some point I'd like to do that. Um, I don't know how realistic it is, but it's something I always thought about, running a marathon and stuff.
Yeah.
50 of them. Wow. I mean, the most I ever ran was 9 miles.
Uh,
That was my longest run. Even in the military, we didn't, 5 miles,
well,
we didn't do such long runs, but 9 miles. And then I spent the rest of the weekend sleeping. I don't know if that's the normal result of a long run, because 9 miles.
yeah, no, I pretty much run 9 miles every morning. That's a basic run.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Then
that's
I
that's
get
amazing. And you're fine. Like, your legs are okay.
I'm fine, yeah.
Wow. That's
I did find a little like soreness in my knees, and then I started eating like these habanero peppers that are really hot, and that helps with inflammation. And once I started eating those, it's just like my knees are fine.
wow. Habanero peppers.
Yes, but they're very hot. So
Wow. these are the tricks right here that we have to know. Maybe that's it. I have pain in my back, my shoulder, my ankles.
Um,
Maybe I need some peppers in my life.
yes.
And also have my friends stop bending my arm in the wrong way, in a submission
No, that's not good.
that's probably I'd say probably a contributing factor, you know.
Mhm.
Speak about crankiness, when you're doing something to try to be healthy and then you get hurt in the process, that's always
Yeah, that's tough.
that'll get you. So I'm out here trying to learn jujitsu to, defend myself, protect my family, and
Uh,
I got hurt. I actually have a tear in my shoulder
oh,
uh from somebody, cranking it and me
um,
thinking I can get out of it and, you know, being unable to get out of it and then
God.
you know, it's like, life altering moment right there.
Yeah,
I should have just done this. If I would have tapped,
I know.
Oh, life would be better. Yeah. So what's the second book about? So one's a child's book and one's an adult book, right? Is it also like humor based as well?
Well, a grown-up guide to effective crankiness, the CrankaTsuris Method, is the second book. It's the grown-up book. It's humor based. It tells stories, but everything is written to make you laugh out loud hysterically, and also kind of learn how to deal with crankiness.
Cool. I'm gonna look
Yeah.
them up because I I I I love laughing when I'm reading books, and people get surprised that that could happen. Have you ever read Carl Hyacin?
No.
You might want to check them out. It's novel. It's like mystery novel type of thing, but
Uh-uh.
it's a book that I've been reading in the subway and burst out laughing.
Carl Hiason, Hiason.
Hiaasen.
Oh, yes. Okay. Got it. AAASEN. Got it.
So like literally have burst out laughing. Like I'm reading it and I just start to crack up and, like to the point where people are looking at you like, what's wrong with this guy? Like, but it's just hilarious to me. Like his books are so funny to me. I mean, you probably appreciate it because it sounds like you have a good sense of humor and you appreciate
Yeah.
current
Yeah.
writing.
I would.
You know,
Yes.
um, you might appreciate his books. Him and Christopher Moore are two authors that I find make me actually laugh
Okay.
reading their stuff, particularly Carl's work. Like I'm a big fan of his stuff, but I'm always on the lookout for books that make me laugh. You know,
Oh, this book will make you laugh, and also it's an audio book, and there's a professional actor who does phenomenal, and he cracks me up uh, reading it. And it's interesting when you have somebody do your book, as an audio book,
Mm,
because it, it it's I'm listening to this book and it doesn't sound like I wrote it. Like, and even stuff like, when you're an author, it's like, yeah, and I like, they're all your kids and you like something better. Uh, but even like, wow, that's funny. It's like, and I didn't even, that wasn't my favorite one. But yeah, there's an audio book too. That's hysterical.
mm. It's almost like you're becoming a spectator when somebody else does it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
you're
Yeah.
you're you're listening to your own material, but it's like you're hearing it for the first time, as
Yeah.
opposed to reading it where you're reading it in your head in your own voice, or you have completely different person kind of putting their own twist to it
Mhm. Yeah.
and the way they deliver it and stuff. That's cool. Yeah, that's pretty neat. That's pretty cool stuff. I've considered writing a book for a long time. I pretty much do a blog.
Uh,
That's my primary thing. And
well, that's how I start. I started the blog, and I would just write different things on crankiness. I had my crankiness blog. And then that's like I had like enough. It's like, I put this together into a book. And that got me putting together a book. But then I was done with the book and I kept writing. And actually most like even more fun stuff has happened post first book, which will be in the second book, but it's in the blog.
Mm,
So I have Getting on My Nerves, CrankaTsuris, tough going CrankaTsuris, first rodeo CrankaTsuris. Then last one was CrankaTsuris Menopause.
Wow.
So,
Get away
so
from
I,
that one, man. Be careful over there. Yeah.
no, it's really hysterically funny, but
Don't get yourself beat up.
no, it's actually any woman reading it, it's like, yeah, that's the, it's good. You have to read.
Cool. Very cool. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna look into it. I really do enjoy reading funny stuff. You know, I'm like I said, I love Carl Hyacin and Chris Moore. If you could check those guys out, the first book I'd recommend is Sick Puppy. That's the
Thick
title of
book.
it, Sick Puppy. That's the
Okay.
first one that's what got me hooked. I had my wife try it, and I don't know, she kind of was okay with it, but I don't think it impacted her the way it impacted me. But I
Okay.
also, yeah, she's nodding, she didn't take to it the way I took her, but I also have a different sense of humor where, I find certain things funny that maybe other people may not find funny. you know, um, it's kind of that kind of that I give you an idea of, like there's a dude that gets run over by a tractor, right?
Uh,
Now, I don't know if there's anything really funny about a dude getting run over by a tractor, but once you read the book and you see who this dude is, you'll find it funny that he gets run over by a tractor. You know what I mean? Once
yes.
you once you have the entire picture and what this individual has done, like he gets a kick out of listening to 911 calls of people before they die. Those are things that generally in life are not funny, but given the right storytelling and the right, you could kind of, find the humor in it. Oh.
So, just to give you another funny story on my blog,
Mm.
I have Getting on My Nerves CrankaTsuris. And I uh, I talked about the meanest gang in the Bronx back in the 70s. They were called the Bronx Bombers. And the big boss was this guy, Big Boss Billy. And he would get on people's nerves, rub people the wrong way, and get under people's skin. And his big enforcer was this guy called Fatty Patty Melt. And of course, at some point, Fatty Patty Melt lost all his nerves. His nerves were shot. So Big Boss Billy kind of uh, did him in, so little Johnny goes, "What happened to Fatty Patty Melt?" And so Big Boss Billy said, "Oh, of course," he said, "the nerves were shot. I can't have a force like that. First, it's going to get on my nerves, and if I do nothing, it'll get under my skin, and that rub me the wrong way, and then it'll get under my skin. And you don't want fatty patty melt under your skin. So what happened? Well, let's just say may melt fatty patty melt in pieces. So anyway.
This is true story or something you made up?
No. Actually, I made it up, but
Okay.
it's taken from Billy Martin, Bronx Bombers, Yankees. Billy Martin, who was always getting on people's nerves, and like he would like I don't know, follow Yankees back in the 70s, but Billy Martin was like he would get thrown out of ball games every other day by the umpires because he would rub people the wrong way, get under people's skin, on Steinbrenner's skin. Also, that's why Steinbrenner inspired him. So he was a perfect person to use for my story, even though I made it more monster like, not
Oh, right.
yes.
So when you said Bronx Bombers, so I clearly don't follow baseball, right?
Wow.
Or you said Bronx Bombers, I I actually thought to myself, "Oh snap, there was a gang called the Bronx Bombers." I completely didn't relate it with the gang.
Yeah, it's the
So,
Yankees. Yes. Yeah.
I had a moment there, and then when you said the individuals again, I wouldn't know that. You could throw that name to me, I would never. The only name I might know from the Yankees is Don Mattingly.
Okay.
And whatever that era was, that's probably the only name I'd know. Maybe um Daryl Strawberry's another name I'd know.
Yeah.
So that era, Gary Carter. So those are the names that I would know of baseball, and it's only because I have a few of their cards.
Okay.
So, but that particular era, whatever that might be, would be the only names that I'd know.
All right. Fair enough. Okay.
You know, but I used to jog on the track where Yankee Stadium sits now. So, they
Yeah.
switched it. I don't know if you've seen it,
I know. It's
but they
nice. It's
switched.
a nice track. Yeah.
Well, that track before used to be where the original Yankee Stadium was, and the track used to be where the new Yankee Stadium is. So I used to run on the original track, and I'd always hear the games. Charge, I
Yes.
I never got into it for some reason. Well, baseball frankly bored me, to be honest. I went to one game and I left by the third inning. And I went there
Yeah.
because this girl I liked wanted, they were going, and then I was like, well, I could hang out with her or whatever, because I thought it would be a cool way to hang out with her. But then I was there and I was like, this, I can't do this. You know, I can't pretend to like this to hang out.
Uh,
Sorry. And I left. I left. I couldn't, I just couldn't bear it, you know. So I don't know anything. Pretty much organized team sports. I don't know
done.
about. I used to follow boxing. I don't know what's going on anymore. And the same
Yeah.
MMA. I don't know what's going on, man.
Uh,
You're big into sports, like aside from baseball, or just just down with
Baseball, basketball, hockey, not as much. Football. But baseball's probably a falling closest. And basketball. It's probably I'm looking at watching games and stuff.
yeah, basketball. I could tell you Barkley, Jordan, Pippen, that era.
Uh,
I watched it then. During that period. So when like the Chicago Bulls won it like 3 or 4 times, whatever it was,
well,
3-peat, the 4-peat, that period, that's when I kind of watched it. The Dream Team for the first time,
uh,
in the Olympics, and that's all I got. That's the extent of my organized team sports knowledge.
okay. That's
I
fine.
could I could never do any trivia and that stuff. I totally totally lose.
That's okay. It's probably good. Probably good. And you have a lot more free time. These guys, it's so in sports, it's so that they go. So you have time to do a blog, you have time to take your blog and put it into a book. And then you call me up, Steve, I got my book. Go buy it.
Yeah. New York and Growing Up Bronx. That might be one of the ideas. I have a section called Growing Up Bronx where I talk about it, the experiences. My podcast episode before this one was about being used as a human shield in a shootout. And when I
Wow.
was a teenager.
Now,
This
what
guy,
part of the Bronx do you grow up?
167. So like in between 167 and 170, there's a block called Clark Place. That's where I grew up primarily.
Is that near Grand Concourse?
Yeah, yeah. So we're right. My building was right in between Grand Concourse and Walton Avenue.
Okay.
And, it's the easiest reference point is 169, which is a couple of blocks away from Yankee Stadium. So
Yeah.
that vicinity. And then I was sitting on a car, and this guy came and got behind me and started shooting into a car.
Uh,
Like, like basically kind of like behind me like this. Pop, pop,
uh,
pop. Then the guy in the car pointed his weapon, and he
wow.
saw me, and then he drove off. So he didn't shoot, thankfully.
That's scary.
Maybe I wouldn't be here to, talk about it
Yeah.
had he shot back, and then the guy ran away.
Yeah.
It's crazy, you know. And that was a typical day. I didn't even register it until after the fact. Like it didn't even what was happening didn't even click in my head.
Wow.
Yeah, that was
That's
bizarre.
scary.
You ever jump on mattresses when you were coming up? You, you ever jumped on the street mattresses, or were you
No,
down around to?
no, we had we had stickball in the streets, and then we back in the day, I don't know if they give like I would go to. I mean, I always like found this funny. We would go to bat day at Yankee Stadium. We would sit in the bleachers, and we were all like these cute little kids. So get a bat, go back to seat, and then go up to the usher or the ticket guy. I didn't get a bat. And you get another bat and then bring back the seat. And then you go up to another ticket guy. I didn't get a bat. You get another bat. And then we're leaving the stadium. All of us have like 8 bats each. We have all these bats, which, basically you think about it, is that they're handing out weapons.
Sure.
There's not in the Bronx. Like, they're like weapons. And sure enough, we're going into the subway and a gang came by and mugged us and they took all our bats.
That's weird because like you could use the bats to stop them.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mm.
But they came with the bats to take the bats and
they got the jump on
they knew how to use the bats. They're an expert.
expert batters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can happen. One would argue that that could have been karma coming after you for jacking them from all them bats.
That's it. Yeah.
You know,
They maybe some other kid didn't have a bat. He came in late. Sorry, we're out of bats. Meanwhile, I'm sitting there like in bats. Yeah.
but this is his human nature. If you can get away with it, you're gonna do it, right? I mean, if I can get a bunch of bats and I'm pretty sure I'd do it too. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if I got jacked afterwards. I mean, I got jacked for everything when I was growing up too. So, people in Halloween they stole my Halloween mask. You know, I mean, people try to steal my sneakers. Like, what's up with that?
Yeah.
you know, you know,
No, I've done stuff like that still.
yeah. What's up with that? I never understood that, dude. The thing is on my face. I'm breathing into it. You know what I mean? Like it's a mask, and you're stealing it. Like it. I just never. Years later, that guy found me on Facebook. He said, "Hey, yo, you that guy that used to be in Clark?" And I was like, "Yeah, man. Who's this?" He's, "Yo, it's Crazy Eddie." I was like, "You stole my mask, bro." You know, like we weren't friends back then or anything, but I knew his name. So when he gave me his name, I was like, "Bro, you robbed me, man. You took my mask." He's like, "Yo, I'm sorry about that, man. We were kids." Yeah, yeah. That's the response I get from most of these guys that terrorized me in my youth. We were kids.
Yeah.
We were kids.
I remember like taking air out of tires. I mean, I could
Yeah,
do bad stuff.
we all did we broke some car windows once. I guess we're well beyond any statute, with the spark plugs. The
Oh,
plugs, if you hit a window with spark plugs, it basically turns to grain. It just
good.
disintegrates.
Yeah.
So we were riding our bikes and this guy came aggressively and almost hit us.
Uh-huh.
So we followed him and we saw where he parked and we waited. And when he was away, a decent amount of time, each one of us covered a window and we all had these little, the porcelain and the spark plugs. If you break the spark plug, that little kind of glass thing, you go like, "Ping," and it just, so we
Wow.
each took a window and we completely wrecked all his car windows. And then we got on our scooters and bikes and we dipped, but he deserved it. That guy was driving very aggressively, against some kids. So
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good.
he was like, you get the hell out the way, and rah, like he tried to hit us. He sped up. So
Yeah.
I got something for you. We just followed him and we waited. We saw him. Like, "We'll get you." And we, turned his windows to dust, and then we dipped.
Okay. Well, that's good because that guy almost hit me too.
There you go.
Yeah.
That
I
was
remember that guy.
that's how we expressed our crankiness. We took his windows, and we cleaned up the neighborhood too. We had like a prostitution location, and where all the drug dealers were coming and stuff. So we waited for a bunch of people to go in, and we
Wow.
threw some M80s in there. And you know, I mean, not at the people, but into the hallway
Wow.
that was separated by a bunch of little rooms. So they had all the little rooms where the guys would go in and do their thing with the ladies, and there was a hallway. So we started throwing M80s into the hallway.
No.
Did that enough that they kind of shut the spot down.
Mm.
So we were also fighting crime, you know,
It's good. It's good.
in our youth. I want to thank you for coming on.
Check
But
out my website, StephenJosephAuthor.com. A lot of in the blog, it's a lot of fun stuff. It's a blog about crankiness. That's all I talk about is crank, but it's stories. It's hysterically funny, and you go, yes.
do you use social media as well where people can connect with you?
Well, I have a Facebook page, Stephen Joseph Author. I have an Instagram. Where I have a lot of followers, but I really don't understand Instagram, but I do have followers on Instagram. I have a Twitter account at CrankaTsuris, but again, I don't understand, just because maybe 'cause I'm older, but, and then on LinkedIn where I post to us.
Awesome.
So, yeah, but, the blog is the place to go where you get a lot of stories and you get to preview either the current book or the book in the upcoming.
Awesome. Cool. It's been a pleasure talking with you.
Well, same here. Well, thank you, and you have a great day. Good luck with your project.
Oh, man. Ah.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. You take care, okay?
Okay. Take care.
Bye-bye.
You are listening to the NYC Talking podcast. www.nyctalking.com. Please like NYC Talking on Facebook. Please follow Angel R Talk on Twitter and Instagram. We are NYC Talking, the realest lifestyle blog ever. Thanks for listening.